Hello, and welcome to The Kosh. I'm your host, Timber Smith, and The Kosh is a podcast that spotlights people who've had an association with Oshkosh or the surrounding Fox Cities region. Kosh listeners, how are we doing? Or should I, you know what, I keep forgetting to say this, but I am going to say hello and welcome to The Kosh, the People's Podcast. I'm throwing that in because I do believe we are the People's Podcast. And not only are we the People's Podcast, but let me tell you what else about The Kosh. This episode of The Kosh is sponsored by Sturgeon Spirits Craft Distillery, The Kosh's newest tradition. Big shout out to the team over there at Sturgeon's. Y'all already know that's my church. Okay, so let me give you the number rundown that I like to give at the beginning of an episode, and that is this. Today is gorgeous. It is gorgeous and blessed that we are finally entering what I believe, I'm going to call it true spring. Now, not all those other fake springs that we get, and not the 2 fake summers that we get where we get a couple of 70-degree days thrown in there. But no, I think we're in the real deal. Like, this is feeling good today. I'm pretty happy. And actually, Bosco, the podcast dog, has already started bothering me. He's like telling me, hey, you're going to take me for a walk later over at Menominee Park. I'm like, all right, man. I get it. He deserves that walk. And so we're going to hook him up with that. But more importantly, today we've got, it's going to be a great conversation. We're going to have a great conversation. I'm actually very excited about this particular guest. I don't know them that well, but what I do know is they are highly active in the community and they're doing amazingly positive things. And how can that not be a great conversation to have? But, what I'm really going to say is at the end of the day, I don't know how I continue to get these amazing, amazing guests. And this week is no different. So, without further ado, this week's guest is Joseph Scala. Hey, Joseph.
Hey, Timber.
How's it going?
Awesome. I'm so appreciative to be here, and just a big thank you to you for bringing me here. I'm always glad, as we said before we started recording, to bring attention to people and causes that are important to me. And I assure you, I will promote you absolutely everywhere I can. Appreciate the great work you do.
Hey, well, you know what? That's better than a sharp stick in the eye. I will take the promotion. Hey, did I get your last name right?
You did. Scala.
Yes. I'm getting better. Kosh listeners, if you've noticed, I have not slaughtered a name in some time. I have a tradition of just slaughtering a last name. Mm-hmm. So I feel good. And usually I've been working on trying to remember to ask what the enunciation is before we started, but I did not this time. And so I just rolled with it.
I'm the youngest of 8, so I've been called a lot.
I don't even want to ask.
No, I love my sisters. I'm teasing.
Oh, wait. So what's the makeup of that?
I have 5 older sisters and 2 older brothers.
Okay.
Who I love very much.
And you're the baby.
I am the baby. Even though I just turned 60 a few weeks ago, I'm the baby. And my sisters remind me of that every day.
Oh, yeah. That can't be easy to be the baby when you've got that many older siblings.
Without jumping too far ahead, it really is. It's been a blessing. I am incredibly fortunate in so many ways, but it always starts at the beginning. And having those 7, I just this morning, I talked to my brother and my sister. I mean, having them in my life has been just an incredible blessing. In addition to all the other great things that we're going to talk about and cover, and just, being sort of brought into your world. But it all starts there.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you know what? Let's jump in. Mm-hmm. So, Joseph, can you please share a little about yourself and what's your connection to the Kosh and the surrounding Fox Cities area?
Yeah. Again, at the risk of repeating myself, my story, it always starts with family. I'm the baby brother of 7, devoted son, dedicated husband. Those are the most important things. To me, we're going to talk about organizations and accomplishments and things we've been involved with. But at the end of the day, my first priority from day one was, being a devoted son. Second, sort of Mount Rushmore is a great brother. And of course, the final piece to that is a husband. To me, those are the most important things by a mile. I come from very humble beginnings. I'm the baby of parents who are first generation immigrants, very, very appreciative of everything that's come my way.
Where are they from?
Both my parents emigrated from Sicily, so my family, all sort of are centered in North Jersey. That's where most of them settled. I've been, again, jumping ahead a little bit. I've been in Wisconsin now 20 years. I mean, Wisconsin is home to me and has really embraced me. But of course, they're a huge part of my life. In fact, I'll be visiting. I get there very frequently, both for work and to visit.
Well, I think you're my first Sicilian that I've had here on the couch. So that's kind of cool.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. As far as, the short answer to, connection to this area, I mean, it's hard to even start. I mean, and we talked about some of these things. I mean, even though, again, I come from North Jersey. I've been here 20 years now, and this is where, I live, work, and volunteer. I mean, I live in Appleton. That area has embraced me in ways that, I can't even verbalize. We'd need a lot longer than an hour and a half. And throughout this whole sort of Fox Cities corridor, pretty much from Green Bay down to Oshkosh. Obviously, Oshkosh specifically, again, as we've talked about before, I'm very involved with the Oshkosh Chamber. I've attended, events. I have customers here, many, many connections here. Probably the most prominent and most visible connection I have here is, of course, with UW Oshkosh. I've been incredibly fortunate, as I've been with so many things, but to sing at so many events. I mean, I've sung for UW Oshkosh football, men's and women's basketball, women's volleyball.
Wait a minute. You can't just glaze over this, Joseph. Okay. I mean, so you sing?
Yeah, I've been very fortunate. It's a huge part of my life. I sing the national anthem. I've probably done the anthem. We were trying to figure this out in a recent interview I did. Probably about 750 times over the last 10 years.
Whoa. That's a lot.
Yeah. I mean, and I sort of have my different groups. And again, that sort of ties back to my connection to the Fox Cities. I mean, I've sung for the Green Bay Gamblers, Timber Rattlers, Green Bay Rockers, UWGB.
Oh, you put in work.
Well, I certainly don't consider it work. I think it's very humbling, and it's a great honor. Even more importantly, as much so as the games are fun, and I love doing the games. Obviously, a bigger, quote unquote, bigger part of that is military organizations. I'm very involved with the Fox Valley Veterans Council and Menasha VFW, and I've been incredibly fortunate to sing the anthem, amongst other things, with them for many events. Of course, Veterans Day, U.S. Armed Forces Day. There's obviously a wide variety of events. One other Oshkosh area that will always stand out, that again is on that sort of Mount Rushmore of experiences I've had. When the Oshkosh Traveling Wall came to Oshkosh several years back, I was incredibly fortunate to help them open that ceremony with "God Bless America." As I said, there's so many, but that is one that truly, truly stands out.
Okay. Next question is, before I let you keep going, so how was your transition from Jersey? I mean, how do you compare Wisconsin and Jersey? Because those stereotypically feel like some big culture differences.
You know what? I'll try to give the short version on this, and again, this wasn't with any plan or whatever, but from 93 to 02, I had traveled extensively to Wisconsin about once a quarter. So I knew every inch of Wisconsin as well as people that lived here. And I had an opportunity come about in late into 01 into 02 to run a small company in Milwaukee that was in industries I knew, customers I knew them, and it was just the perfect opportunity. And for a variety of reasons, it was the quote unquote right time to leave New Jersey. As the youngest, my nieces and nephews were older. My mother was in a good place. And, finally, I mean, one of the biggest parts to that equation is obviously you can live a lot better here. I mean, I come from very, very humble beginnings, and don't get me wrong, I had an awesome life in North Jersey, but you can live a lot better here.
Right, the cost of living might be just a little bit cheaper.
but the short version on that, I mean, the transition for me was seamless and pretty much instant because, I knew the area, I knew a lot of people. There's always, of course, there's always adjustment, and even the most confident, sure of themselves people have uncertainty, but gosh, I mean, that just kind of went well from day one. I was in Milwaukee when I first was here from '02 to '06. And then I had become close to my wife and moved up here for good in January of '06. It was very symbolic because it was right around the beginning of the year. And, as I said, this area has embraced me in a way that I just feel so humbled and appreciative of. But, as I said, the short answer to your original question is it was just really seamless and has just been, just great from day one.
All right. So I want to ask a stereotypical question.
Sure.
All right. So are you disappointed in the pasta selections that we have in the region?
It's funny you say that. I'm probably jumping ahead to shout outs, and I would say absolutely not.
Yeah.
I think that our area, a personal favorite of mine in Appleton is, of course, Victoria's, which was a personal favorite of mine even before I lived here. Okay. So, I think that the Italian here is outstanding of the, places I've been fortunate to sample. Nothing's as good as my mother's, but, let's not get too crazy here.
Yeah, I'm not. Look, first of all, I don't want to be in trouble with your mom, and I'm not going to get you in trouble with your mom.
Well, she's up there, so she'd have to wait a few years to get at you.
But. Still. All right. Fantastic. Let me ask you this. Mm-hmm. If you weren't doing what you're currently doing professionally right now, what would you like to be doing?
Well, that's kind of a softball question because since I was a child, obviously I would love to have been a singer. That's what I always aspired to. Obviously it's a part of my life and something I still do. But going back to my earliest recollections, when Michael Jackson was 5'6" and I'd see the Jacksons on TV, I was just overwhelmed by that. Donny Osmond. Going way, way back, the early soul singers. I love the Temptations, love the Four Tops. So when I was even 5, 6, 7, my older sisters, something would be on the radio and they'd sing along. And that's kind of how the whole singing thing started without going off in that direction. It was I have no formal training. I'm just a skilled amateur, but really how it all started is I adore my siblings, but I've got 7 tone deaf siblings, but something happened. Maybe I dropped when I was little or something, but obviously that's just something I'm passionate about and just love. And
well, you got the gift.
Well, you're kind to say that.
What was it? Okay, so you've done the national anthem like 700 and some times. You said you were trying to figure it out. Let's go back to like the first couple of times that you ever did that. Mm-hmm. What did that feel like? Because I just feel like that's such a massive song, right? Because it has such importance, and there's some really passionate people who really tune into it, right? Because they really get into it. Sure. I'm always surprised when
me included.
When I go to a sporting event and then randomly some person next to me just starts singing along, and I'm just like, whoa, okay. And I just don't do that because these vocal cords are not meant for that, and I don't want to disrespect it. So,
I guess I'd answer that in 2 ways. I had done some of that way back when, but much less so, not to the scope and scale of here, but in this smaller pond. This area really embraced me. I will say, and I've been asked this obviously a few times. It's not just a song to me. I'm the poster child for everything that's great about this country. I come from humble beginnings. My father had a 3rd grade education. He worked 6 days a week, but he didn't have a lot of formal pedigree. So to me, just the honor of singing the anthem really is meaningful to me. And like you said, one of the things I've noticed much more so in recent years, even in big arenas, even doing, the Gamblers at the Resch Center, people singing along. It really is amazing. And I've always, when people refer to, say, singing the national anthem, I tend to say leading the national anthem, because I think that obviously people don't sing along. That's fine. No big deal. But generally speaking, you really are leading, but you have a louder voice, so they'll sort of, follow you. But it's just a really hard thing to describe, the feeling of being up there, particularly I think much more so for military events, because at military events, you're in front of 100 people.
It's serious.
And these are like tough guys with tattoos that are 75 and older, and they're crying. and afterward they want to hug you. And I think that they're so appreciative of your being there, because, it's funny. It's like asking me to pick my favorite sister, but if I could only pick one, and you said, well, okay, you can do 20,000 at the Kohl Center for UW basketball, or 100 for the Menasha VFW dinner, I'd pick the Menasha VFW dinner 100 times out of 100, because it means so much to them and is so meaningful for you as the performer. It's just, there's so many. I mean, there's so many memories. Every one of them has been special in some way, and I'm just so humbled and appreciative to have the chance to be able to talk about it today and have had those experiences.
Thank you. We're going to jump into the first segment. First segment is what in the world is going on with? And that's where you start with the phrase, what in the world? And then you tell us what's on your mind. Okay. So what's on your mind?
Well, I know we've talked a lot of happy time, and some of this is happy time, but what in the world is going on with the border? The border has tentacles that stretch into so many things. And I think that on both sides, just having a civil, learned, educated discussion, negotiation, and figuring out how to address it, because it just has repercussions in so many areas, particularly as someone that, I'm very driven by helping others. And I understand the most extreme views. I understand the least extreme views, and everywhere in between. But I just think that that's something that I wish we could look to our leaders for a more intelligent and educated approach.
Facts.
Mm-hmm.
Bruh.
I just wish it wasn't politicized, because that's what I feel like.
Mm-hmm.
It's too politicized for us to come up with the proper answers and the proper plan forward, right? Because the proper plan forward to me isn't, no, we don't close the border. That's not what we should be doing. Mm-hmm. We're built on immigrants and diversity and bringing people in. Not only that, we don't even necessarily have enough workforce. As much as people try to pretend like, oh, they're to come take our jobs. Some of the jobs, you're not working those jobs, and you wouldn't work those jobs, and you wouldn't let your kids work your jobs, and you're going to let your grandkids work those jobs. So quit fronting. This is some other stuff, right? And so, but if there's people who do want those jobs and work those jobs and work hard at those jobs and provide things that our nation needs, why are we fighting this so hard?
I think the one thing we should all be able to agree on is it shouldn't be politicized. I don't have all the answers on that particular topic, or frankly any topic, but I do think both, in our lives, in my career, in every aspect of my life, when there's an issue, problem, whether it's as simple as something broken in your home, whether it's, a customer issue, you examine it, you talk about it, you try to look at all aspects of it, you do some give, you do some take.
Yes.
I think that's would be one of my biggest takeaways. Again, not without jumping ahead to other things. That's always my advice, for want of a better term, with friends, family, and whoever who asks me about things. Is just have a conversation about it, a reasonable conversation where I say something and you respond, and then you say something and then I respond, but not where we talk over and at each other. There are obviously a lot of passions on that particular topic, and a lot of topics, and a lot of positive topics, because certainly the things that I'm passionate about, I'm very passionate about, but by the same token, it should be a dialogue. It should be a discussion, and I think that's
the answer's in the middle.
Right.
It's all the answer. The best answer usually is always.
That's
in the
very
middle
well
somewhere.
put. I will tell you, throughout my work career, that's kind of always the case. Typically, in instances where, again, just using round numbers to make a point, if there's $100 dispute between me as a manufacturer and you as a customer, typically your starting point is like, okay, let's start at 50. You know what I mean? That's
Right.
that's just basic negotiation 101, whether you go to the CARA seminar or you talk to two guys or gals walking down the street. That's, and I think that's one of the things we lost without jumping ahead. I think that that particular topic is important, but the bigger topic, far bigger topic to me, is just pure civility. I think the way, again, both sides. The way these people talk to each other is abominable.
Yes.
And that's something that I know in my personal life and professional life, I do try to address with people that I know, that I work with, customers, whatever it happens to be, that, hey, look, I've got 7 siblings that I would take a bullet for. We don't agree on everything. I've got a wife that I would do absolutely anything for, but we don't agree on everything. So let's just acknowledge that we don't agree on everything,
Right.
and go from that as a starting point to work on things.
Where I get disappointed is when we start dehumanizing each other over difference.
Right.
Instead of letting difference just be that difference.
Right.
It's okay.
I think actually, you and I sitting here is a microcosm of that thing. I mean, we've got, the son of first generation immigrants, Italian kid from North Jersey, sitting with an African American guy in Oshkosh. Just the fact that you and I,
that alone is an anomaly. No,
it is. But it's a good anomaly, because the fact that you and I share a commitment, interest, passion for this community and all, even though we could not be on the basic level more different. But rather than focusing on, say, our physical differences, let's focus on the stuff that, the 90% that we do share. Commitment to community, commitment to making it a better place, that type of thing. And that's what I was drawn to from day one with you, is that you're about that. And so am I.
Yeah. Well, it's the bait. Look, most of us, we're based in the 80, 90%. And that is this. We all want good things for our children. We want safe places to live. We want to make enough money to take care of our families. We want communities that thrive. Like our value system, usually, no matter who you are, where you come from, is so aligned on so many levels. And then where these horrible fights really happen is the fringe, and the fringe becomes the identity instead of us identifying by the commonalities. I don't care where you come from, what country you come from, or anything like that. I've yet to meet people who just didn't want the basics. Good shelter, safety for their kids, good schools, an opportunity for a job or a career or a business, enough to support their families, and some cool things to do out in the community. I've yet to meet the person that's like, nah, don't want those.
Right.
So
I think tying a bow on that is kind of where we started. I think we have to focus on our commonalities and the things that we share, rather than bickering about the smaller part that we don't. I mean, that's something that I try to impart every day.
Like it. Okay. Well, what in the world is going on with is what in the world is going on with presidential immunity?
Bruh.
Let me just say this. I can't stand this one because I don't get it. Wait, I grew up, and I know everybody, if you grew up here, there was always the phrase that no one is above the law. No one. Right? I've heard that my entire life. And they go out to point to specific people. Even the president has the answer to the law and all of this stuff, right? And the fact that we've got a request to try to bypass that hurts my soul, and it makes no sense to me.
I guess the only thing I would interject on that is on it, the examples that are typically used that are relatively simple, for want of a better term, is that obviously throughout history, we've had presidents that made very, very difficult decisions for our country, but you even have presidents that make very difficult decisions at companies. I mean, in terms of letting people go, those type of decisions. People agonize over those. They hate them. And, me personally, even during my career, I think where it becomes very complex is that we've had presidents drop atomic bombs. We've had presidents have to order strikes. That's where I think it gets murky. And that's where I think you have that discussion. Presidential immunity was, I don't think, ever intended for want of a better term, what I'd call minutia. I think it's more considered for big stuff. And I think that's why it's a complex thing. But I think I mean, I don't want to be so bold to say we can all agree on, but I think I certainly feel strongly that there is room with regard to, again, some of the big things that we've done, whether it's in recent history or former history, where you're talking about big decisions that impact people's lives, putting people in harm's way. I mean, obviously, if, a presidential decision puts your children or your friend's children or whatever in harm's way, I mean, that's a very, very serious thing. And you don't want to be on the hook from an immunity standpoint, on that. I mean, those are difficult decisions. I'm glad I'm not making them.
But those aren't the decisions we're talking about. And those decisions I understand. And particularly if you're talking about international policy, stuff where, I served.
Sure.
So I get it.
That's
right.
awesome.
You've got to make, someone's in charge. You're going to make some tough decisions. You hope that whatever you're deciding, you're usually doing it in the best interest of either the country or in the best interest of the men who are serving under you, and things happen, right? No, and you don't need immunity from those types of decisions, right? So I don't think those fit, especially when you're talking about international policy and things that you're doing internationally, because though that's given, the president gets to make those calls. That is the way that is, right?
Right.
But when it comes to domestic things, and domestic things particularly, and I really shouldn't say international is off the hook, because you could do some things internationally that would be less than savory.
Absolutely. People have been, countries and
bribery,
war
anything.
crimes. There were Nuremberg trials. There's definitely precedent for, on an international level, of course.
Yeah, but somehow I don't think that's the immunity argument we're having currently.
No, I think that's, a lot of it is legalese and over my head, and looking at precedent, and again, I think that's far more complex than I can take on today. But I do see your point. In the sense of, I think that most people on the big stuff totally understand it. We're trying to figure out some of the smaller stuff, and I certainly don't have the answer, and hopefully, that will work its way through the system. And
well, I would like to see it, but at the end of the day, I still don't like the concept of an individual serving our country who is beyond above reproach.
Well, I think as someone that served, I think you have every right to hold a very strong, opinion on that. And I'm sure that both myself and anyone who listens to the Kosh, follows you, and whatever, appreciates that service. And I think they also appreciate your thoughts on that, particularly given the fact that you've served. I think that's something that we just have to hammer out.
Even if I didn't serve, though, just as
I think you have a stronger position though as someone that served.
As an individual who lives here, pays taxes like everybody else, and is a participant in this community, and tries to do positive things on the behalf of it. But regardless of the fact, I just think no one should be beyond reproach. And then if you allow that, where's the guardrails? Because there should always be guardrails. Something, and there should always be something to have to answer to. I can't think of a single individual in American culture, because there are dictators across the world,
of course,
who have and we see how well that works.
That's true.
I'm just saying.
It usually doesn't end well.
Yeah, it doesn't end well, and some of those places it's not running well.
No, absolutely.
So I just want to make sure that we always still have those guidelines in place. And
I think that's a positive and noble sort of place to, try to tie a bow on that. It is. I think that's probably something that, except for the most extreme, people can agree on, that they want to have, disregarding the political nature. Whether it's in, companies have guardrails in terms of what you can and can't do with regard to policy, how you treat people, expenses, whatever it happens to be. I think that's a very fair and reasonable thing to aspire to. How to get there, that's more than we can probably take on today.
Well, I don't think everybody is there, or else we wouldn't be in the Supreme Court.
Sure.
And wouldn't be having this discussion. And, and once again, there's not a right or a wrong to it, but it's where my what in the world is. And That's it.
Understood.
Okay. Now, you ready for the next segment?
I am.
The next segment is called 21 Questions. This is where we ask some questions. Luckily for you, not 21 of them.
Uh-huh.
But these are nice in-depth questions. So you never know. We might get 21 answers out of you.
Maybe.
All right. First question. What are you grateful for?
That's the easiest softball question that you or anyone could ask me. I mean, I'm appreciative of family. We've already touched on this. I mean, and as I said, at the risk of repeating some of the things that we talked about earlier, but it's so important. I'd go to any mountaintop and repeat it all day long. I had, 2 parents that I absolutely adored and tried to be a devoted son, from day one. I've got 7 siblings that I honor and adore. I have a wife that I honor and adore. I mean, that's what I'm grateful for. We can talk all day long about accomplishments and singing at different things and all. And those are important, and I'm appreciative of those. And I've been so fortunate, but what am I most grateful for? Those 3 things. Those to me are the Mount Rushmore pillar of what I'm appreciative of. My parents, my siblings, and my wife.
What motivates you?
That's again another softball because I'm going to answer it the same way I answered the prior question. I mean, I'm motivated by, supporting those that I'm close to and that I care about. I mean, I've always been driven and motivated by that from childhood to, as we sit here. And I'm guessing that if you interview me 5 years from now, I'm going to give you the same answer.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Never know. What grounds you?
Okay. Now I'm really being monotonous, but it's the same. I mean, I think that, no matter, we all, whether it's in business or in life, or we all have adversity. No matter, even me, I mean, as I said, I've been very fortunate. I hit the jackpot with my parents, my siblings, my wife, with all the great experiences, some of which we talked about. But what grounds me is, just those relationships. I mean, my sisters still remind me when, I was a 5-year-old snot-nosed kid that, I barfed and they took care of it, whatever it happened to be. And it's grounding. It is. You can only feel so cool and so successful when you're in a group of people and your sister throws out a story like that. So I think that's something that will always keep me grounded. The people that are close to me.
What does success look like to you?
This is another easy one, and it's part of the same discussion. Whether I was 5 or 15 or 55, and it's not a cliche. It may sound like one, but certainly those that know me well know it's not. I want to make my parents proud. Again, whether I was in childhood, adulthood, and I'm a failed human being like everyone else, and I have not always done so, and I make mistakes just like everyone else. But from the get-go, it's always been about having my parents be proud of me, and being able to look them in the eye and say that regardless of what it was, whether it was in my relationship with them or things I was doing on the outside, that I gave things what I had and, put forth effort, treated people with respect, the values that, again, they instilled in me from day one.
What irritates you?
Very little irritates me, and I'm sure that comes across and you can see it. And I think a lot of that's environmental. I mean, I think being the youngest and being last for everything, and so many things in my life required patience. Most of my career, I've been in long cycles that took a long time. So, I mean, I've got a lot of terrible qualities. My wife and my sisters will definitely fill you in on that, but I'm very patient, and I can see the reward at the end. So probably my biggest pet peeve is just lack of effort, not trying. People that don't, and you and I've touched on that in some of the other things we talked about. I will painstakingly, whether it's in my professional career, outside of that, painstakingly teach people anything, walk them through things. But the one thing that we can all bring every day is effort and try. The second part, which kind of goes along, because I think it's a part of not trying, and we touched on, is civility. Civility you can bring every day. You can treat people with respect. It doesn't require any prep. It doesn't require any money. It doesn't require any extra energy. If someone says good morning to you, you smile and say good morning. Someone says thank you, you say you're welcome. It's not that complicated. So, those are 2 things that come immediately to mind.
What scares you?
It's interesting. There's probably only one thing that scares is a really strong word, but I mean, I think always a part of every day for me is just knowing that my wife and my sisters are safe. That's something that if they were in any environment, whether it was in, an urban environment where they were unsafe, if they were serving, our country, whatever it happened to be, but just knowing that they're safe and well taken care of, and just even when there is adversity, knowing that, not just me, but that there's a lot of people that care about them, my brother's family and whatever. But that's, I hate to use the word quote unquote easy, but that's kind of an easy one because that really is what scares me.
What recharges your soul?
So again, sort of in that vein, but now we're kind of drifting into, services, helping others definitely recharges my soul. I mean, I think that, and that sort of the roots of that are from family, but it does. And I say that, I find myself saying that to people in some form or fashion every day, that, you want to feel better about yourself, do something for someone else. That I find with me, and again, I'm a human being like everyone else, and I have adversity like everyone else. It's just a much smaller part of my existence probably than a lot of people, but I know that even those times where I wasn't feeling good about myself, where there'd been some difficulty, where there'd been some adversity, cheering someone else up, making one of my sisters feel better about themselves will make you feel good. And that, using your exact words, which I love, that recharges my soul.
How do you define love?
Well, I've had some of the best examples. My mom and dad, I mean, I got to watch firsthand, a love story, and now, as whether again, going back to that 5, 15 or 55, if you looked at a picture of my father at 60 and me side by side, you could not tell the difference. And, being a part of that, and actually in both ways, that's something I shared with my mother. I lost my father at 16, which was obviously a difficult thing. But I think from my mother's standpoint, it was always a nice thing to have in her life that I was there, that she was able to sort of relive, all those years. At the same time, difficult, because there were times, I've been many times, over the years before my mom passed, where I would literally just show up at her back door on a Sunday and she'd just burst into tears, because it's literally like watching, a movie of yourself. And that's something that I aspire to be half the husband my father was, but that's something that, I try to live every day, with my wife, and hopefully that's something, we've talked about a lot of really nice things and accomplishments and volunteer efforts and all, but I do hope that there, particularly among some of the younger folks that I'm close to, that I also inspire them as a husband, because it's very important to me.
What is the most memorable life lesson you learned from your parents, a guardian, or a mentor?
This is an easy one, because I say this, some derivative of this almost every day, and my mom said this from day one, is that one of the things, we had very little, but my mom said, even if you don't have much, you share what you got. And that's, like I said, something that I say some derivative almost every single day.
All right. You have survived 21 questions. All right. Ready to jump into the next segment?
Let's do it.
All right. And that segment is called Word Association. So I'm going to say some words, and you're going to tell us what comes to your mind. Now, we have a tradition here on the Kosh, and that is this. We always start with the same word. It is the word of unity. It is the word of community. It is family. It is the word of love. And that word is food.
Food is an easy one. Italian. I mean, we talked earlier about some of my favorite restaurants, but when I think of Italian food, I think of family. I think of Sundays at mom's with my brothers and sisters, and even when mom was gone, dinner with family. But Italian food has been such a part of my life, and even amongst some of the great restaurants that I love. But I use this word one too many times, but that really is a softball, because that just leads, and I'm your listeners can't see this, but I broke into a big smile, because that just brings back thousands of memories.
Were you able to snag some of the recipes from your mom?
Oh yeah, I'm a pretty fair cook. I'm
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
kind of a specialist. I'm
Oh,
good.
you got some skills?
I'm really good at a few things. I'm not as extensive as mom and my sisters, but I'm more specialist.
Okay, specialist. All right, I don't know what to do with that one except for to say you should probably invite me over for food.
You have an open invite anytime.
Cocktail or beer?
Just simple beer with friends that evokes, a lot of warm fuzzies too. I think of all the years of, whether it's traveling for work at trade shows, sitting with friends, just having a beer at, one of the local places, here in Oshkosh or in Appleton that I love, or back home, or, on our deck. I mean, that just
You got a favorite?
favorite beer or favorite place?
Favorite beer. You can tell me if you've got a favorite place to have your beer. We could do that too.
It's funny. I'm really a beer simpleton. I'm kind of like a Miller Lite, Amstel Light guy. Those are kind of Stella Artois is one of my favorites. I'd say those three probably.
Yeah, you keep it simple.
I am. I'm a simpleton. I just use a lot of big words when I talk.
Bruh. Stop it. Shop local.
To me that's just important. I think that I have many, faves. I mean, in terms of shopping locally, particularly on the restaurant side and retail side, and we all have our brand loyalties. But I just think it's just important for all of us to always be cognizant of that. To not that you can do it every day, but get to downtown Oshkosh, get to downtown Appleton, support those local businesses, because they're the lifeblood of our communities, and they're the ones that are supporting a lot of these great organizations, whether it's the Alzheimer's Association, American Cancer Society. I mean, it's just something really important to be cognizant of.
What's your favorite shop local place?
Well, shop local, I guess, and again, I kind of have to look at that in terms of, my neighborhood, but in downtown Appleton, my wife and her mom, who again is mom to me and very close. They love Lillian's, Beatnik Betty's. Those are a couple that come to mind. Tenny's, we have patronized numerous times, for batteries, for watches. But if I thought, and again on the restaurant side, again we love Victoria's, we love Sangria's, but there's so many. I wish I had time to do a shout out to all of them, but those are definitely some.
Concert.
I just, as a singer and someone that just loves music, and music is part of the fabric of all of our lives, and different songs bring warm fuzzies for a variety of reasons. And I've been fortunate to go to so many, but there are a couple that really do stand out. I was fortunate to, I was in Vegas several years back and saw one of my childhood heroes, the Righteous Brothers. Bill Medley is just one of the singers that still to this day I pattern myself after, and I was fortunate to just run into him, take some pictures with him, talk with him some, which was just really a career highlight. One of the other, not career highlight, that's more like a personal highlight, but anyway, one of the others that just sticks out in my mind. I was very, very fortunate to go to get to a meet and greet and met just one of my childhood idols, one of the first ones I emulated, Levi Stubbs from the Four Tops, who's a big bear of a man who talks like this, and just meeting him and shaking hands with him, and his hand just kind of enveloped my whole body because he's about twice as big as me. But just meeting him. But those are two that definitely stand out. But again, from a music concert standpoint, I could go on all day. But those are definitely two that stand out, kind of separate from the rest.
Streaming.
Well, I mean, streaming is the future. I mean, obviously, this from a technology standpoint, the world is ever changing. The way we take in media, the way we watch television. I mean, I'm obviously dating myself, but I mean, I'm old enough to remember when there were the network channels and not much else. I mean, I remember, I go back to turning the channel selector and literally having to get up off your seat. So to be here today, where we're talking about technological advances that are happening every day and just change so fast, that's just something that's interesting. That being said, I mean, even though I'm an old guy, I mean, I've kind of embraced technology from the jump, and I think it's important. It kind of ties into a lot of the things we talked about, is that it is important, to evolve in everything we do. And I've always been sort of like an early adopter, but I think the challenge to me is always using the things that are of value, learning the things that are of value, and avoiding the things that are just a time suck and waste a lot of time.
Are we streaming anything? Are we streaming any podcasts, TV shows, anything in particular we liking out there right now?
Yeah, I mean, from a podcast standpoint, of course, yours. I mean, I've loved some of the people that you featured, and I don't just say that because I'm sitting here with you, and from a patronizing standpoint, but I love what you do. I love the fact that it kind of you're kind of shopping locally in terms of focusing on people here that are making a difference. That's fantastic. I follow podcasts probably more on the business side. Typically on LinkedIn when I see ones that I think are of value and relevant to what I'm doing. I mean, because it's really interesting. Of all the things that we talked about so far today, I mean, obviously I have passion for singing and family and volunteerism, but I have passion for sales management. I mean, I'm a sales management guy. That's what I've done my whole career. I love the process. I love the research. I love the proposals. We talked about all those anthem dates. I'm a veteran of thousands and thousands of appointments. I mean, I would say well into 5 figures. I mean, particularly if you add trade shows, and that's something that, again, I have passion about. But, again, that's kind of the short answer. Podcasts, I tend to focus on things that are, sort of business marketing, sales related.
Entrepreneurship,
to me, and again, we touched on some of the great entrepreneurs that run some of the places that you and I both love. I mean, I think they provide many great role models. I mean, you look at one that comes immediately to mind just because on my social, I just shared this the other day, is that a couple of days back would have been Oscar Bolt, who obviously he would have been 100 years old, has an incredible legacy, and Bolt is an amazing company, both for their accomplishments, for their philanthropy, but these people just provide such tremendous inspiration, as role models, the entrepreneurs. And again, whether that's like one person running a food truck or someone that started a $1 billion business. I mean, entrepreneurship is just one of the backbones, Mount Rushmores of what makes this country great.
If we have any people listening from Bolt out there, I need one of those hard hats. I'm telling you right now.
I'm going to get on that. I think I might be able to.
I need one of those hard hats. My boss, he gets these hard hats all the time, and I'm like, hey, can you grab me one of those? He never remembers to grab me the hard hat. So I'm determined. I'm going to one of these ribbon cuttings, and I'm talking to somebody, and they're letting me have one of these hard hats.
We're going to make that happen because, boy, I'll tell you, when we started off, we talked about promoting people that we like and want to support, and I will tell you both folks, if you are listening, I mean, this guy's going to be out there promoting you guys all the time, so we got to get you a hard hat.
Well, not only that, do you know how much construction we got going on around my job right now?
Absolutely.
I mean, City Hall is wild, so hey. That hard hat isn't just for the sake of promoting. It's actually functional.
You know what's funny? We talked about a lot of this today, and you've given me that's going to be one of my goals when I walk out of here. I'm going to make that happen.
Last word, diversity.
I mean, diversity is so important. I mean, again, we touched on this, but, I'm the poster child for, what makes this country great and why diversity is important. That, a Italian kid from North Jersey with parents without a lot of formal education, without a lot of money, without a lot of advantages that, was able to, I mean, I'm certainly not going to roll over, but I've been incredibly fortunate and had, some really nice successes, both career, and otherwise. And I think that, when we embrace diversity and diversity, I think not just, I mean, I grew up in a really ethnically, racially mixed neighborhood where people were really, close in together, a really urban environment. But it's not even just that, just diversity of thought, diversity of background. I mean, I had, friends that were from the best families, whose parents both had PhDs and, were super successful. And I had parents whose, like mine, both, parents were just working class, stiffs, just working hard to try to give their kids a piece of the American dream and kind of lead them in the right direction. I mean, that's something, again, that we could talk about all day, but I think the primary, top line thing on that, it's just important, and we should all be able to agree on that.
Facts. Okay. Next segment. Next segment is called the Kosh Hidden Gems. This is your opportunity, Joseph, to share a hidden gem. Now, a hidden gem can be something that maybe sometimes it's something everybody knows about, but there's these details that most of us don't know. Or maybe it's something you don't think a lot of the listeners out here might know about. So, what and it is not limited to the Kosh.
Okay.
Your hidden gem can be wherever the hidden gem is. So what is your hidden gem?
There are actually three that come to mind, and I'm going to run these off really, really quick, and they're all sort of have a military bent. I've been fortunate, like I said, I grew up in the New York area, so I spent a lot of time in D.C. I've been to the Smithsonian, the Washington Monument, and all these things. One of the real hidden gems in the state of Wisconsin and in this whole country is the Veterans Remembrance in Neillsville, Wisconsin. That is one of the most breathtaking, beautiful, particularly on a day like today. And I encourage all of you out there to just search Neillsville military, however you want to, but it'll come right up. It is just an amazing tribute to our American heroes. On that light, one other one that immediately comes to mind is the Isle of Valor in Menasha. It's just one of the most beautiful settings, I think, in the whole state of Wisconsin. I'm probably hopelessly biased because I have been fortunate to be a part of the Menasha VFW's Veterans Observance for Armed Forces Day there, but that is. And then finally, here in Oshkosh, the Military Veterans Museum in Oshkosh is truly a hidden gem. People pass it on 41 over and over and over and over and over again. I encourage you to stop in and take a look there and watch their events and support them if you can.
All right. Well, at this time, we're going to take a small commercial break.
Did you know there are children in the Fox Valley in need of hearing aids, but their parents struggle to provide them because of lack of insurance or high copays? I am Juliette Sturkins, audiologist and board member of Here in the Fox Cities, and proud that this small local nonprofit organization has helped fund hearing aids for some 30 kids. Your donation would help more children hear. Visit hereinthefoxcities.org to learn more and to see their smiles. Every child deserves to hear.
All right, we are back. And I just want to put out there that to all our nonprofits in the region or nonprofits who happen to listen to the Kosh does give away ads to our nonprofits. So if you're interested and you want to create an ad, please let me know. We would love to record an ad for you, and we'll play it here on these episodes. And then, of course, we can't forget that this episode of the Kosh is sponsored by Sturgeon Spirits Craft Distillery, the Kosh's newest tradition. Big shout out to them. I'm excited because you know what? I plan on going to visit them later on today and have the Kosh. And once again, if you've never had the Kosh cocktail, it is amazing. And it was crafted by us. Thoughtfulness put together with my friend Todd down there. And it's just yummy, flat out. And also, there's some new stuff that they have created. Some yummy rums. Now, typically, I'm not a rum guy. But you know what? I am now because I tried it. And it was fantastic. So I encourage you, go check out Sturgeon Spirits, have the Kosh, and try some of these rums. They are amazing. Okay, now on to our next segment, my favorite segment, the segment that, I don't know, there's nothing better than a great story. So it is story time. Joseph, you ready to tell the Kosh listeners a story? This story can be about absolutely anything. You ready to jump in?
I am.
All right, let's go.
One that comes immediately to mind, particularly as I drove here this morning, a lot of memories of UWO, because you see the signs, and I've had so many incredible moments with the folks at UW Oshkosh at so many games, and they have just been wonderful toward me and treated me great just from day one, and I am so honored that I've been fortunate to be a part of that. But one that definitely sticks out is, last year, UWO women's volleyball attempted to set a Division III attendance record, and they came very close, and it was an amazing crowd and an amazing environment with just tremendous people. A lot of my friends were there, people that I ran into. And as I said, I could bore your listeners with stories all day long, but that's one that came immediately to mind, just based on the morning. Again, just even looking across at you with your Kosh logo. When I think of Oshkosh, UW always a part of that, and it's so visible because when you drive through town, you see the towns, you go through the school, and you see the buildings, and it brings back all these wonderful memories. But one thing that I will never forget was being a part of that night, and the way that everyone top to bottom, treated me from the minute I walked in to standing at the scorer's table before I went out, and then afterward, and the folks with the team. So that's something that, as I said earlier, they're all special, but that one's real special.
So we actually didn't beat it. I thought, oh wow, okay,
they came very close.
Now that I think about it, I remember seeing it on social media. I really wanted to go, but I had another engagement I had to go to. But that's right, we did not.
It was a huge crowd, though. I believe it was close to 3,000, and I think that's again, without over elaborating, but
that's everybody packed in golf.
Well, and with a community this size, to be able to generate that kind of number is just amazing, because I think even Division I volleyball programs in the New York metro area would be thrilled to have 3,000 people. So, I think that, and again, maybe that's just always my perspective, as I think it's really important to always take stock of your accomplishments. And that's something they should be very proud of. Well, in addition to that they had an amazing season, and, they're amazing athletes. And the fact that, those women are juggling, full-time school with, playing at that level is something, again, we should all be able to agree that we can really admire.
Well, we should be celebrating it. First of all, we need to be going to that. Number two, that volleyball team has been they've been tough for a long time. Like, they don't mess around.
But the interesting thing is, I would also add, though, that we should be celebrating them just as much if there were 50 people there and they were below 500. It's not, it's obviously, communities come around behind teams that are win and are really successful. And that's important for a lot of reasons. But I know I personally look at it, I just admire those kids, and I just appreciate the interactions that, I've had with them and so many students from UWO. And again, even just in passing, times where I was walking off the court or the field and, one of them nods and says, good job, or whatever it happens to be. I think we really do need to embrace and support those things in our community.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. We have this amazing resource dead in the center of the city, and just good opportunities to engage. They've won a lot of national championships.
They've been successful, no question.
Yeah, no doubt. And so we should be going to more of that stuff. Okay. Well, thank you very much. And now it is time. Every single time. Love it. Every single time. That means that it is time for the topic of the week. Topic of the week is chosen by our guests 99.9% of the time, and this week is no different. So, Joseph, what is this week's topic of the week?
I think as we go into fall, we obviously all get, of course, excited about Packers football, and that's really important. And my Packers volunteer groups are a huge part of some of the things I do, which dovetails me into the fall walks for the Alzheimer's Association and American Cancer Society. I'm hopelessly biased, but I encourage listeners to look into those. Even if you just show up on walk day, it's a fun environment, positive environment. Supporting people going through difficult times. So, as I said, I would really, really strongly encourage you to look into the fall walks for those organizations. One of the others, of course, as we go into fall with Veterans Day, from military standpoint, the Fox Valley Veterans Council and Menasha VFW have their veterans events, and those things are a huge part of my fall. And I hope if any of you can be a part of those, to please do. Certainly feel free to watch me on my social platforms, on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, search me by name. I'll obviously be doing, updates and different things as those things come about. But, as I said, if you can be a part of all, we would obviously love to have you.
Well, tell us more about these fall walks. What is a fall walk?
The American Cancer Society and Alzheimer's Association have, the Walk to End Alzheimer's. I've been on the Walk to End Alzheimer's Appleton Committee for many years. I'm sure it's been at least 10, and I've been fortunate to sing the anthem to open many walks as well as for the American Cancer Society. And they're just, fundraising walks where folks, sort of your classic put together pledges and raise money for a good cause and promote just the availability of the services that are out there that they're glad to provide and, help people with going through difficult times.
You know what I'm going to do is I'm going to expand your topic.
Okay.
Because here's what didn't happen yet. You are part of a lot of things, Joseph. Mm-hmm. And I don't think we got a chance to talk about some of them. So what are some of the other organizations that you're involved in, and what are they doing that you can share?
I guess I'd start, and we've touched on some of this, and I'll try to just summarize these, somewhat quickly. On the military side, I'm very, very active with the Menasha VFW. Commander Dave is a role model, father figure to me. He's an American hero. They do a lot to help veterans, and a lot of it they do behind the scenes. They help a lot that are down on their luck. So if you see, as I said, whether they're doing a brat fry, buy one. If you see they're doing events, support them. But, their mission is very clear, support veterans. The Fox Valley Veterans Council, again, is another organization that really helps folks. And again, a lot of them down on their luck. I mean, Tim Cody, who's president of the Fox Valley Veterans Council, is a great friend, American hero. They do, a variety of events. As
I like to call him the Colonel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But they, again, do a lot of events to support not just veterans, but also the community at large. Others that I'm very heavily involved with. As I said, we talked about the Alzheimer's Walk. I've served on the committee there for many years. I've sung the anthem for the Oshkosh Walk for many years. American Cancer, again, been involved as, a fundraiser with them. The reason that I gravitated to those two, and again, I'll try to give the short story, although it's a long story. As I alluded to earlier, my father passed from cancer when I was 16. So that was a long time ago. So I've been sort of a lifelong advocate and been an ambassador and many other things in the American Cancer Society. It's been a huge part of my life. About a dozen years ago when my mom, she lived to be 88. She had quite the life, but amongst other things, she did develop Alzheimer's later in life. And that spurred me to learn more about it and spurred my involvement with the organization. As I said, those are probably, to me, when I think about my volunteer activities, those are the core ones. There are a lot of others that I've been fortunate to sing for. And of course, some of the other organizations, teams and all I'm active with. But I would really say that in my marketing, posting, talking about promoting at different events I go to, those four are sort of the core ones: the Menasha VFW, Fox Valley Veterans Council, Alzheimer's Association, American Cancer Society. And I appreciate you asking because, as we said at the very beginning, I am proud and glad to shout from the rooftops about causes and things that are important to me.
What motivates you to be so involved? Because that's a lot. Mm-hmm. A lot of people often believe they're too busy to make time to get involved in a lot of these things.
I understand that, and I think that's something that I'm often, in doing these type of things, able to encourage people toward, because we all love the grand and glorious stuff. Even in my career, we all love the big proposals, and we love when we're presenting to a big group and we're in a conference room and we're pitching the 6-figure proposal. But most of our days are the small customers, troubleshooting things, figuring out things. Well, it's the same with my volunteer involvement. Yeah, I love the big stuff. I love when, you have the opportunity to hand a big check to one of those organizations and take pictures. But the thing is, from my standpoint, and again, maybe part of it is just stupidity or humility or a little of both, but it's not as big a commitment as people think. With some of those, those are typically weekend activities. The singing part of it I love anyway. So I just try to fit that in. And I always encourage people, much like I did earlier when we were talking about it, that it doesn't have to be the grand and glorious stuff. If you're intrigued by the American Cancer Walk and that's touched you, just show up on walk day. If you want to help for an hour, another set of hands is always welcome. But I think one of the things sometimes that holds people back is that they think that it's this massive commitment and time. And it's not. It can be. I mean, obviously, if there are listeners out there that, particularly if they're retired or just called to a certain thing and they want to give more, there's many, many organizations that I haven't mentioned that want your help, need your help, and would embrace it. But I think the short story is just, do what you can. Just try and make the world a better place.
Okay. Is there any last things you would like to say about this topic?
I think just, as I said, to kind of put a bow on that and summarize that is, if you are so inclined, watch my social, and if any of those events speak to you, please join us because we'd love to have you there.
Thank you, Joseph. Kosh listeners, you know what time that means? It is time for us to start wrapping up this episode. Let me just say thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you for spending time with us. Thank you for giving us your minds and ears. Thank you for caring about this community enough to spend time with us to learn about another person out here doing amazing things within our community. The Kosh here, we are the People's Podcast, and we are trying to become the #1 podcast in all of Wisconsin, but I can't do that by myself. I can only do that with y'all, everyone's help. So what does that help look like? Well, there's a couple things. We are a work in progress. So if you want to reach out and let us know how we can make the show better, if there's new segments, maybe you want to be part of a segment. Hey, we do have a phone number here at the Kosh if you ever want to call and leave us a message, and we will play it on air. And that phone number is 920-385-5073. Once again, 920-385-5073. Also, if you would like to be a guest, maybe you'd like to recommend a guest, however you would like to get involved, trust me, that's how we get most of our guests nowadays. And you can reach out to us at askthekosh@gmail.com. Once again, askthekosh@gmail.com. Now, when I first started, I said, I need y'all help because we want to become the #1 podcast. Well, how can you help? While you're listening to this podcast right this moment, take a moment and press the subscribe button. The other thing we could really use is we need all the reviews. Take that 2 minutes, 1 minute, and leave us a quick review and let us know how we're doing here on the Kosh, good, bad, or indifferent. Every time you press subscribe and every time you leave a review, what it does is it improves our analytics. And the better the analytics, the more eyes and ears get to learn about this amazing podcast known as the Kosh. And I thank you for doing those two things for us here. Okay, now it's time to get down to real business, and it is shout out time. So Joseph, who do you got to shout out?
My shout outs, I think we've touched on, but I'm going to do it again, and I'll do it again and again. My wife, of course. I mean, she's always there for me, supports me in everything I do, and I'm incredibly fortunate to have her. My brothers and sisters, again, same song. I mean, I'm incredibly fortunate to have all them, and they've been with me from day one. And a couple that, immediately come to mind because of some of the things we've touched on. Commander Dave at Menasha VFW. He's an amazing person. Has been a huge influence on me. And again, a lot of the stuff that he does without fanfare that people don't see, but he really helps a lot of people. And, I'm incredibly fortunate to call him a friend. And then finally, in that same light, I'll mention Jim Strong from the past president of the Fox Valley Veterans Council and has been a part of numerous veterans organizations in the Fox Valley. Again, he's a great friend, American hero, mentor, and I'm incredibly fortunate to have him in my life. I could go on with many more, but I'll let that bunch, because that's a pretty exclusive bunch. I'll let those folks kind of stand on their own merit, and I'm just very appreciative to have all of them.
All right. Thank you for that. My shout outs this week. I want to send a special shout out to my mom, my pop, and my sister Tiff. We had a little medical situation this week, and nothing like that to bring family together. That's for sure. Always happy to connect, but even more so, it was super nice to spend that time and have these conversations, even though it was it wasn't under the happiest of circumstances, but it turned out good in the end. Want to send a special shout out to Jocelyn, who's taking the first steps to starting a business. Not going to say what that is yet. We're going to let that continue to form, but I got to be part of it. And it was pretty cool. It's pretty cool to see somebody take the first steps into starting a business. Want to send a shout out to Junior Achievement BizTown. If y'all don't know, let me tell you about this secret gym. There's this gym over by Fox Valley Tech in Appleton that is like this small city for junior achievement, and it can be utilized by the public. So you just got to reach out to them, and they have a bank, they have an energy place, they have a town hall, and you go in there and you can do like a simulation with young people. I got to spend time with some fourth graders at this, and we had a mock mayor and mock business owners and mock people running the bank, and they had to go do a loan, and there were energy challenges, and it was just so cool. Who knew that we had something so awesome? So big shout out to the Junior Achievement BizTown. Big shout out to Fox Valley Literacy. I got a chance to go to their big event for the year, and it was fantastic. There is nothing better than hearing the stories of newcomers to our country who are trying so hard to just to have their best life here. You know, I got to meet people that with the countries they came from. They were dentists, they were surgeons, they were all sorts of things. And because of the change of coming here and having language deficiency, they can't do that work yet. And so they have to it's almost a restart on life, and they have to rebuild. But it's just cool to see that we still provide those dreams for many here. And particularly that organization does an excellent job helping people, newcomers to our region, become the best them that they can. Big shout out to my man Chuck Self, and shout out to my man Sean Fay. And last but never least, shout out to my wife, because as always, thank you, baby, for letting me record a podcast in our house week after week. And that is a fabulous thing. All right. So, Joseph, we got one thing left to do, and it is this. You get three choices. You can provide the Kosh listeners with some parting words of wisdom, or you can tell us, what would yourself today tell your 13-year-old self? Or option C, like a true multiple choice test, I need to give you an all of the above. So you can do both if you like. How would you like to proceed?
I'm going to do the all of the above. And I'm going to start with the advice to the 13-year-old, because that's a relatively simple one. And I'm going to, I don't know if there's so much parting words of wisdom, but share, some very quick thoughts. If I could talk to my 13-year-old self, I would actually tell him to probably do some of the things he did. Just honor your father and mother, and be good to your brothers and sisters. One of the very, very last, and it's a difficult memory at times, but it's a very loving memory. But one of the last things my father ever said to me when he was really at his weakest, just, days before he left, and again, as the youngest, said, always look out for your sisters and your mother. And that's, again, what I'd tell my 13-year-old self. On a probably lighter and much more, happy time note, but I will end with some parting words. We covered a lot today, and I was so appreciative to do so. I'm very, very appreciative of my friendship with you and just the chance to get to know you a little better. And as we had said many, many times, focus on causes and things that are important to me, both professional, personal, volunteer-wise. I mean, I just embrace every one of those opportunities. But, I think when people, I know when I get asked whether they're by, young folks, or even within family and throughout my life, for some sort of partner was, I'm a simple person. I just keep it simple. Treat others well, treat yourself well, and pretty much the rest of the stuff will work out. Don't over engineer that. I mean, if you're good to yourself and good to others, most of the other stuff will fall into place. And then finally, since we touched on it quite a bit, I am going to just leave a short message with all of you from Mr. James Taylor. Shower the people you love with love. Show them the way that you feel. Things are gonna work out fine if you only will. Thank you, and I appreciate you taking time with me today, and just the listeners listening. Thank you.
All right. That was fire. All right. Woo. Joseph, what you think?
I thought that was awesome.
Thank you for being on the Kosh.
As I said, at the risk of repeating myself,